Hello, welcome back. This is Mark Miller, and this is a second part of a interview I'm having with my good friend, a writer friend, here, an author, published author, and I would say successfully published author, Kregg Jorgenson, here at the Bremerton Kitsap Access Television. Once again, part of the Kitsap Literary Artisan Writers Artisan and Creative Showcase. So we went some background information the first half hour. Now we're going to get a little more in the nitty-gritty. And we'll start out with Kregg's books and explain a little bit the process of getting the book in this format and also the cover art and the blurb on the back and stuff like that.
As you're well aware of, my first 5 books were with Random House and on the Vietnam War.
Right.
And I wanted to try something different, but I was in a contract with them.
Right.
And I wanted to break away, and I wanted to do my own stuff and own some of my own rights. I'll never own the rights probably for the first 5 books that Random House has, because right now with everything, with the you can get an ebook.
Yeah.
So as long as that is out there in the e-world, you'll never see the rights again. However, I still get royalties from that.
You still get you get a small check once in a while.
Yeah, you do. Every 6 months you get a small check, and you realize, that's why I kept my day job.
You talked to Random House about some of the books, you getting the rights back.
Yeah, it won't.
They didn't want to talk to you.
It's not a question of not wanting to talk to you. It's just that they're still marketing them. They're on Amazon, and back in our day, and I say our day, there used to be what's called bookstores.
Oh, exactly.
You'd go to a mall, and there was B. Dalton Books, Walden Books. Right now is what.
Now we have Barnes and Noble.
It's about the only. And Amazon really took over the field. Yeah. What Amazon did, which. For writers, it's a wonderful thing because now the books go all around the world.
Right.
And if you have an ebook out there, they're going all around the world. So, I'll get letters from, or emails, no letters. I'm sorry, I'm still
dead
old.
Letters out.
I'm still old.
Electric letters.
Electric letters. I'll get electric letters, I'll open them up. Yeah. And you'll get them, from Australia, England, Ireland, Germany, Poland. It's an amazing thing to people going, I loved your book, and they're going, which one? And then you find out which books that they're appreciating and which ones they like, and it's nice because it just knows it fuels that fire that we have as writers. We were writing, before we ever made any money at it, which we're making a great deal right now, but before we ever sold anything, we still had the passion. We love books. We love good stories. People say, I want to write a book. I say, well, what do you read? Who are your favorite authors? And if they can't tell you, if they don't have a handful of favorite authors, you kind of look at them and it's like, if you want to make money, be a plumber, be an electrician.
I'm one of those guys. I was going to be an investigative reporter back during the Vietnam era. Yeah. Well, I had a stupid counselor at the University of Washington. Oh, you don't have to sign up for any communications classes yet. Get rid of all these stupid ones. Well, that was the year about 1970 where everybody wanted to get in journalism. So I had an ROTC scholarship. I didn't want to be one of those guys that took 6 years to graduate because we had some people like that. Oh, yeah. Some people got into ROTC just to dodge a draft, which is a whole other story. It drives me nuts. So I wound up not getting as much into journalism as I thought I was going to be, and I wound up in law enforcement instead.
What got you into writing?
That's the story. Okay. I wrote a lot in law enforcement. Wrote a lot of stuff because you had to write reports. Right. Of course, different style, of course, because you're writing something for court, you're writing this, you're writing that. Well, I retired and just started screwing around and, of course, discovered the internet. So I just started typing stuff, and some people actually kind of liked my writing. Mm-hmm. So then I started looking into, well, what do I got to do to get published? Mm-hmm. And so I started with a sci-fi series, and we'll get into it here a little bit more. I'll show you some of the covers and try to get into the evolution of it. And then I discovered the old idea of what is a publisher, what is a vanity press. Yep. I went with one person who started out as a publisher, turned into a vanity press. Vanity presses are those companies that want you to pay for everything up front. Right. And so if you talk to a real traditional publisher, they don't consider them publishers, but they can still call themselves publishers. A lot of the major publishers, and Random House probably has one now, they now have subsidiary companies that act as vanity presses for new authors. So they use the vanity presses to weed out the people, and then maybe if they really like you, then all of a sudden they roll you over into the traditional publishing.
My career has started off with the big boys, and then I wanted to own my rights.
Oh yeah.
Because some of the books I'll never see the rights again. Yeah. So I went with the POD, which is print on demand.
Right. Exactly.
And I own all 100% of it. So you're responsible for the whole thing.
Yeah.
So you invest the money. It's like, okay, will it sell? And will you make any money off it? Then when you start making profit off it, the profit I made off this one led to this one.
Right.
And it's like you keep rolling it over.
But you weren't a start-up writer. You already had experience.
Yeah, and I had a fan base.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Fan base people. Yeah. We had one author who occasionally comes to our group. He's the only guy I know of who in the last couple of years has got an advance. The way he got an advance was he started writing and he started publishing little chapters of his fantasy books online. Right. And then he had people sign up saying, well, I'll send you the next chapter early if you pay me $1 a month or $2 a month.
Oh, Stephen King did that.
Yeah. I mean, cheaper than dirt.
Yeah.
Some major publisher, or at least a medium-sized publisher, saw this, read his stuff, called him up and said, we really like your stuff. We're going to give you a contract. We're going to give you $14,000 advance. He's the only guy I know of who's gotten an advance recently. Very few publishers give advances anymore.
Yeah, and the advances, as you know, you don't get a penny more until that advance is paid off.
Right.
So you may not get anything after that. And that's why I tell people, keep your day job. Don't quit your day job, because you're going to be paying taxes on that as well. And but it's not the money. I think the satisfaction of the writing. It's nice to get those checks. Because when you report it to the IRS every year, you're a professional writer, so you get to write
the state of Washington.
And you can write that off. But the passion is the art. The passion, whether you're an artist, musician, writer, is the art, and you keep doing it anyway.
And then getting into art, we're going to now talk about the importance of covers.
Yeah, cover art.
And even the back page.
Right.
And so kind of talk in a little bit about your evolution of your covers and little blurbs and all that good stuff.
As you know, my fan base was the Vietnam War, because of the television thing from CBS that drew a lot of interest. And when I broke away to own my own rights, I had a fan in England, a guy named Glenn Carey, who's an artist, and Glenn did the artwork for the first book here, and the second, and also the Bomb Dogs. He's done many of my book covers, and I'll give him an idea, and I'll just say, go with it.
But you found somebody that could do that for you.
Yeah.
Because you're like me, we can draw stick figures.
Yeah.
And that's it. And nobody's going to look at a book with stick figures in it.
No, and you want something that will grab the attention, because let's face it now, the bookstores are gone.
Yeah.
So they're back in the day, even when they had Blockbuster Video. You could go in, you could pick up.
True.
You could read the back of it, see who's in it, whether you liked it or not.
But you still have on the back. You still have the blurb.
Yeah, and you get some. This one.
Yeah.
What I think, I was very fortunate to have Robert Crace, a very famous mystery writer.
Yeah, he wrote a.
Yeah, he wrote a nice blurb, and the nice thing about that is that it gets other people looking at it.
Right.
That might not,
exactly.
And then they'll order from Amazon, and then it goes around the world.
Yeah.
And they're on Barnes and Noble and everywhere else. So this is part of a trilogy. This was the first one. This is the second one. I'm finishing up the third one, and I will be done with writing about Vietnam forever, hopefully.
There you go. But at the same time, we talked about genre.
Yeah.
The cover has to have something to do with genre.
Yeah.
I know a guy who decided he was going to write a science fiction novel. So he went on to Getty Photos of one of these websites and got a stock photo of this good-looking woman. And then he writes the title, and at the bottom it says novel. You don't know it's science fiction. Doesn't look like science fiction. You have to flip the thing over or look inside for it to say science fiction.
You're cheating your fan base.
Well, we tried to explain that
base.
to him, and he says, well, it drew attention. They looked at the cover. I said, yeah. And then people thought it was a romance novel.
Yeah.
And you want to piss somebody off? Have them pick up a book and look at the back and go, wait a minute, I thought this was such and such a genre, and it isn't, because you just wasted their time.
And they may not ever pick up another one of your books
Exactly,
again.
because you irritated the heck out of them.
So I've tried to break away from the war genre.
Yeah.
Well, apparently I didn't. I've written books on the Civil War, on the last Indian campaign, 1886. Right. This one is about a forger. This one is a comedy.
Oh, yeah.
Did I ever tell you I used to write jokes for disc jockeys?
I believe it.
So I love comedy. So this one is basically a guy who discovers he has a knack for forging Hemingway signatures.
There you go.
And everybody. So it's and there's the research. I have more fun doing the research than the writing.
And that's the other thing too is getting into research. I'm going to dig out one of my. Now I'm going to see if you can talk about my stuff.
You should.
I decided that I was going to write based on my experience as a federal agent. So I started writing Jade Eyes.
I had that.
Yes. Hopefully you liked it.
I liked it. I even gave you a good review.
Oh, good. Yeah. I'm so backward I don't even bother to read reviews because I have a publisher. So real quick story about covers.
Yep.
This is the third cover, and this is the one my publisher came up with. One of the original covers, this was on the front. So, funny thing, we discovered something talking to Barnes & Nobles and some other publishers. In the industry, they have certain industry standards. Now they want, if you're going to write a crime thriller, they want some kind of protagonist on front. Ah. This is the main character, Kim Kupar. She's mixed race.
Right.
She's based on two young women I worked with just before I retired, excellent agents, just probably cut above half the people I worked with prior to that. So I created these characters, and then I tried to explain what it was like to be, a special agent, in Homeland Security, Customs, etc. But my publisher does the cover because I have no artistic ability at all.
Right.
And so she's got two other covers also on that series with the same. I might also just go ahead and show it while we have one quick moment. Then I'll show something else. Same character.
Right.
This is a novel. This is a short story collection. This is the second novel. Protagonist. So, like you said, you can see the connection between the series.
Now, I've got a funny story that will somewhat relate to this.
Yeah.
Back when I was writing for Martial Arts Magazine, sent an article into a publication, and they rejected it.
Right.
I changed the title, just the title.
Yep.
Sent it back to them. They bought it.
Yep.
So again, it's marketing. It's what they're looking for.
Exactly, and you got to know your genre.
You have to know your genre,
like
and you have to know what
they're for the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
Tales of the Slug.
Well, and it is. People forget the writing also includes marketing.
Oh,
You've got to get out there. You've got to talk to people. You've got to promote yourself. Unless you're a big name, which we're not. And I would venture to say 90 to 95% of the writers out there are not big names. And even the big names don't have the budget to go out and do what they like to do.
And that's why with KLAW, what we try to do is we try to find venues like fairs and markets or whatever.
Sure.
And even some businesses like Barbecue to You, there are a lot of authors going there, and after people finish eating, they can walk up and they can look at our books, and we try to sell them books.
Back in the late 80s, early 90s, the University of Washington bookstore used to have authors come in.
Yeah.
James Lee Burke
is
a wonderful writer, just incredible writer, master storyteller. He would sit there all day and just sign books.
Yeah.
I saw a mystery writer, J.A. Jantz, who was in a grocery store, and she Janice Jantz, and I thought, okay, how she's relating to the buyers coming into the store, the women coming in, and seeing that, okay, J.A. Jance, you don't realize that's a woman.
Right.
You're reading the books going, oh, I like these detective novels.
Right.
And then you find out it's Janice Jance, and now she reaches a female audience who might have bypassed that book. But I was so impressed with the fact that they got out there and they were speaking to people.
Which draws a subject that I don't know if you bumped into this yet. There was a group around here that sets up people in front of Fred Meyer's and Walmart and stuff like that. The problem is they basically only want like either young adult books. They don't want anything questionable. They don't want one single cuss word, anything like that. They will sell Stephen King inside.
Mine won't be there.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah.
They will sell Stephen King inside, but if you're out front, and I talked to the guy who organized this group, and well, it's just blah 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 blah. Well, I'm sitting there going, hey, you guys are self-censoring.
Yeah.
They're gonna. Why is the store willing to sell this type of book inside? But if you got an author sitting outside and you simply say, hey, I'm an adult, I write adult stuff, why can't I be there? When I'm out at one of the venues with books, sometimes I'll have kids come up and they'll see the science fiction cover.
Mm-hmm.
You know, well, they'll see like this, okay. They'll see this, and oh, I'm interested. Well, are your parents here? Parents come over. I'll say, how old is he? And then I'll have to tell them, well, this has a bunch of adult stuff in it. And when I was growing up, I was well advanced, so I was reading adult stuff when I was like 12 years old already.
Oh, sure, the science fiction world. We all grew up with Isaac Asimov and Harlan Ellison.
Jesus, yeah.
So,
did you ever meet him?
I did. I had a chance to meet him.
He in his later
incredible
years,
writer.
Yeah, incredible writer, but he turned into a complete flaming a-hole.
He's an interesting character.
Yeah, he burnt so many bridges because his ego got so big. He'd have these writing clinics, and basically they consisted of him yelling at people, telling them, dude, you can't write with a crap. Well, what is the good does that do anybody?
Yeah.
So one of the last things he did up in Seattle, even the magazine periodical The Stranger wrote him a bad write-up because he was such a pain. The Stranger doing that, you're going, my God. So that's just it. You get the talent, but then sometimes, like you said, marketing, if you're not careful, you know.
Back in the 90s, when my Vietnam books came out, I was the original Maytag repairman with, nobody ever called. They had a table in front at the mall with your books, and I had a cup of coffee, and you'd be lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you were there for an hour, you maybe talked to 5 people, or people going, oh, I don't read that. You know? I had one lady, and my favorite story is this lady came up to me, and she says, oh, I loved your book. And I thought, wow, thank you. And, and she said, and isn't it great about the movie? And I said, which book did you think I wrote? And she says, and right behind me was a stand for Cape Fear, John D. McDonald's. Oh. She goes, you wrote Cape Fear? I said, no, I wrote this book on Vietnam. She goes, oh, I don't read that. Push it down. And so your ego is built up and it comes crashing down.
Because my first book mentions human trafficking.
Yeah.
I've had some young ladies walk up, look at it, and they go, I can't read that. I know somebody that was involved in that. It's too personal. I said, well, I can understand that. And
but then they'll go on Netflix and watch horror movies.
Oh, I know, but it's like you said, it's that, it's the genre, it's the way they're doing it.
I had a chance. I was back east, and I got invited on a talk show radio program at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Oh boy.
And I was doing a signing. I was going to do a signing the next day in a mall.
Yeah.
And that talk show, they had like 80 people come out. And they didn't have 80 of my books there, which was wonderful because when you sell out, it's kind of like your publishers are suddenly looking at you differently now. And that was the only big one I think I ever had. And most of the time, you're sitting there, maybe 1 or 2 people will come up. Certain times a year, people will buy things for their father.
Oh, yeah.
Father's Day, Christmas, and Thanksgiving are your best time if you're writing.
Yeah. Sometimes, like, if we do some venues and stuff, I try to do a little bit around Memorial Day and Veterans Day.
Sure.
But I have flags out. I give flags away. In other words, you use a little bit of marketing, but at the same time, you get people talking.
Yeah. And talking one-on-one with people is wonderful because then it's they'll get a chance to see that you're not people when they see your name or something.
Oh, yeah.
What is that about? And when you get a chance to speak to them, I make a lot of jokes, so that kind of tends to break some ice. And then you'll have people picking up the books, and this book is doing really well because of the comedy. This book was from the dog's point of view.
Oh, yeah, I know.
So that was
great.
fun to write. These, I'm done with the Vietnam series. I have my finished with the last one. I'm editing even at home.
So then what are you going to try to do in the future?
I have a sequel to this. This one did so well that I'm doing
cool.
a sequel to it, and it's a comedy. And I believe if you can get people laughing, you can.
I am in the process of writing a book, and I decided that it was time to have a normal person be a hero.
Oh, good.
So I'm writing a book about a waitress.
Heroes are normal people.
I know. But
People,
see,
Hollywood make us believe they're John Wayne.
That's the problem, is that I suddenly started realizing, this is my original cover for the short story, and then you can see the much better cover my publisher did, which shows you the transition of covers. I just want to throw that out. But even my science fiction series, most of the heroes are military, law enforcement, the people in there. Most people on TV now, if you're not a doctor, a lawyer, a cop, firefighter, first responder, they don't want to tell your story, unless it's some weird romance, sexual thing. Okay, so I decided I was going to write a story. Yes, it's going to be a little bit supernatural horror, but it's going to be about this normal waitress in her 20s who gets involved in a really weird situation, but she has to step up, to it.
Yeah.
And I guess I would like to challenge more people. Let's write more stories about normal people who step up.
And people forget that. Hollywood makes us believe that all these, John Waynes, these figures they're beyond lifelike. They're
Exactly.
almost caricatures at times.
Yeah.
And the average person, when I was on the fire department, I always saw people will step in and help people out of burning cars.
Yep.
It's like, those are heroes.
Yeah.
The nurses, the medics, the doctors that worked on us in the hospital in Vietnam, those are, to me, are genuine heroes. I love those people. It's, and I'm all for that. Now, ask me about, because I have a new genre that I'm going to be doing.
What's that?
It's a science fiction thing.
What is it?
I can't tell you because it's wonderful. It's like, I'm not going to give it away because I thought, oh boy. So I've been working on this one for the last year, and I'm slowly piecing it and coming together. And it's a journey of love, but it's so much fun that will take people into different roads at different times.
Can you at least tell us, is it going to be multiple heroes or not? Or just a specific one?
Two specific people.
Okay.
And with brain tumors.
Oh, okay.
And something unusual in the process of their therapy happens.
Oh, there you go.
And
actually, that's a good.
It takes us into a incredible amount of fun.
Well, and that's what people out there who want to write. If you've got an unusual idea, just start putting it down on paper.
Yeah, and
just do it.
Yeah. Well, and you have to. That's and that's the thing right there. What you just said is something that you just do it, and people don't realize that when it comes to writing, I always have a calendar.
Right.
And I tell people, get a calendar and put it someplace, your refrigerator, your bathroom.
Yeah.
And if you write 5 pages a day, you don't have to write for 4 more days. You can write 1 page a day.
Right.
At the end of the year, you'll have 365 pages.
There you go.
If you do it every day. And I had a friend of mine that wanted me to write his book. I said no. I told him the process. He actually sold his book.
Oh, what was the subject?
It was Vietnam. He was a pilot.
Oh, okay.
Helicopter pilot, and he called me up and he says, I wrote 20 pages today, and I said, super.
Good.
And the next day I wrote 10 pages, and then about a week later, I haven't written a damn thing.
Exactly.
And he goes, you bastard, you didn't tell me how hard this was.
Oh, you go in spurts. That's just it. Like I was saying before, when I was writing that science fiction series, there were some days where I just went nuts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you just, and of course, then with computers, you have stuff like I wrote like half a chapter and the computer lost it.
Oh, I want to
I
find.
hit the wrong key or something, you know.
I want to find the person who invented Microsoft Word and give him a big hug.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm editing my final book called
Right.
Sweet Sorrow on these guys, and I just removed a page and a half.
Yeah.
And I went in and I just deleted it. And it was painful because, I love that section. And then you realize it's superfluous. It needs to go. So the editing process, when you cry, but,
Yeah.
writing and edit.
I use little blurb here. I do Grammarly.
Yeah.
But then of course I have a publisher who then does my editor, and we are asking for people with actually trained editors to come to our KLAW meetings. We've got one already, because we've got a lot of people out there who claim they're editors who don't know their rear end from a hole in the ground.
Yeah.
And because you're an English major does not mean you're a trained editor. Sorry, guys.
No, and what I try to tell people, like in writing seminars, is, the trinity of writing.
Right.
Is character, description, and dialogue.
Right.
And then what you put down in your manuscript is what the editors have to go through to decipher. Okay, let's change the description, or let's work on the description.
Yeah.
It could be less. Let's work on the characters.
Right.
And are they true? Do they ring to
Yeah.
the dialogue? Is the dialogue in a
Realistic,
book?
yeah.
Does it sound realistic? Do you read it to yourself? Do you read it to other people? And you're right. This is where the editors come in, and this is where it bruises our ego.
Oh, I
You know,
know,
when you
yeah.
see someone take the red pen to it,
Yeah.
and it looks like, oh my God, the aftermath of Gettysburg. There's so much red on that page. But the wonderful thing is that those people will see what you've written, and they will just turn it into a polished, finished product. And you're right. Let's bring in more editors. Let's bring in more artists.
Yes.
And let's all collaborate and turn out a product that we all can be happy and pleased with.
And that's a great segue, because that's exactly what we do at Kitsap Literary Arts and Writers. And once again, Bremerton Kitsap Access Television is telling me I'm about to run out of time. So I'm really glad that you came back again, because, well, I like talking to you anyway. One of these days I'll go over to West Seattle and buy you a beer or coffee or something. So, once again, Kitsap Literary Arts and Writers with Bremerton Kitsap Access Television manages to put on the showcase. You can watch this shows and a whole bunch of others that we've produced over the years on Wave Cable Channel 3 or Comcast Channel 12. If anybody is interested in coming on and possibly getting interviewed, because you're an artisan, creative, painter, I don't care, filmmaker, get a hold of me, and either I or somebody else from KLAW will, for free, we don't charge dues, we don't do anything like that, we'll interview you, and then you can use that interview any way you want to, because I have it edited, and so their KLAW owns the copyright. Hopefully enough people in the audience are seeing these and getting some idea of what an average person can do as a creative. You don't have to be some huge millionaire or something like that to be creative. Just the normal people should try to step up. And if you feel like writing, if you feel like painting, just do it. Of course, like to thank my publisher, Blue Forge Press, who also, their film division, helps me edit this and puts it up on YouTube. Without their support, and also without Bremerton Kitsap Access Television support, this show would not exist. So once again, Kregg, glad you could come here, and I'd like to reach out to the audience and tell them to have a very excellent day and a very productive month. Good day.